Today's guest has so much experience as a branding strategist, a branding expert with over 20 years. So Mario, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Future Leaders Podcast.
Welcome to the Future Leaders Podcast.
Oh, dude, so good to hang out with some future leaders.
That's the way.
So, it's been a pleasure meeting you guys.
So in this podcast, we love to dive deep into understanding a little bit more about who you are, what accolades you've got, and what your childhood was like to truly determine who you are. So I want to start with, what would you say is your biggest achievement that you'd say has been the most monumental for your journey?
My biggest achievement, I would say that I've displayed resilience over the years. What I'm most proud of in my career and in my business life has been the resilience. I've had many ups, many downs throughout the years, and definitely being able to get back up has been one of those things that keeps me going.
Is there any particular moment where you felt like that resilience was like the pinnacle point in your life?
You know, my whole journey, so we grew up quite poor. I mean, very poor. My parents, when we were growing up, they would buy a cheeseburger at the end of the week on a Friday, and you know, back then when I was growing up, cheeseburger at Macca's was only 95 cents, and that's all they could afford, and they would halve it between me and my brother. So, you know, I've seen both sides. I know what it means to be rich. I know what it means to be poor. And throughout the last 20 years of my business career, I've been both of those things many times. Yeah.
So what does resilience mean to you?
Resilience is about adaptability. You know, we can't control the seasons, but we know one thing for sure is that the seasons will come. So being able to respond in any situation is one of those skills that future leaders need to build, and just know that we don't control all things. We are part of this journey called life, and unfortunately we're not the center of it. So there's people, experiences, moments, interactions that can either lift you up or bring you down, and just being able to be emotionally detached from a lot of our own thinking that brings us down. Most suffering is self-inflicted. So getting your head right before you get into this game called business is a very, very powerful thing to do.
And that's something that I've been going through a little bit lately as well, the resilience, and it comes down to trust. It becomes trust in yourself, trust in others, and that's critical, and that's the self-inflicting thing that I'm experiencing the most is trust is essential. If you don't truly trust yourself, how can you get others to truly trust you and buy into the vision that you're creating? Yeah,
right on.
When's the time that you've had to display resilience, and then what was the outcome from that, and like what was the potential downfall that could have happened if you didn't display that resilience?
Well, let's go deep real quick. I'll tell you, the peak of my career was 2019, when we went into the first lockdown during the pandemic. I was booked to speak at the biggest event of my life, 17,000 people at a conference in Switzerland. Coming from where I was born and raised, to be speaking at an event like that was the highlight. You know, my wife and I, you know, my first and best sales pitch was to my wife, and she bought the program, and she thought she was going to marry this international speaker and this consultant who's traveling the world, and then the lockdowns happened, and we weren't married yet. We got married during the lockdowns. We went out protesting. We said no, we refused to lock down, sit down and shut up. We're not going to play that game. And quite quickly, I had nothing to show for all the promises that I'd made throughout our dating season. And I was in $210,000 worth of debt. I'd lost absolutely everything. Couldn't travel, couldn't speak. There were no more conferences. And while a lot of my colleagues and counterparts went online, I couldn't see what our nation was going through, and to turn around and say, you should buy my online course, and here's 3 easy payments to make it happen. I'm like, no, dude, I'm not going to play communism light, and this nation will stay open, stay free, and stay prosperous. So during that journey, I lost everything. 2023, 24, I spent probably the hardest years of my life. I was very depressed. I was on antidepressants. I was on medication. My wife and I were struggling to have a child. We got married during the lockdowns. legal, of course. And we were struggling to have a child. And I remember at the end of 2024, she said to me, I'm starting to feel depressed because we can't have a child. And the moment she said that, I just remembered the last 2 years of 23, 24 and what I was going through. And I thought, I cannot let her go through this. If there's anything that I can do as a husband and as a man, is to protect my wife and anyone else that I know going through what I had just gone through. So come January, I thought, hey, I still know what I know. I've keynoted over 70 events around the world. I've spoken to over 50,000 people. I've done the strategic thinking for over 300 small businesses around the world. If what it takes is for me to get the hell out of this and my own depression and my own anxiety to protect and to provide for my wife, then that would have been the greatest challenge of my life. And to be able to leave the pain of what the lockdowns did to this nation and to say, I'm going to make sure that my wife doesn't feel how I felt over the last few years. Changed a few things in my lifestyle, changed a few things in my thinking, changed my community, and I have generated more wealth in the last 9 months than I've done across my entire career.
Wow.
That's epic. How does that feel?
We're warriors, baby. You know, for us as men, we have an obligation to protect and to provide. The feminization of men over the last, decade has its price. I love that you're doing the carnivore diet. It was one of the things that really helped me and helped me get back on track. And we need to be able to have these conversations as men and say we are in the greatest spiritual war of our lives. We're in the greatest financial war of our life. The cost of living is rising. The economic crisis that's unfolding around us is going to take its toll. But for us as men, we need to stand up and step out, because if we don't, our nation's going to pay for it. Yeah.
Not just our nation as well, though, the entire world. It's just getting worse and worse in the West. And I mean, not in your West, in the Western world.
Yeah. Western suburbs.
It's getting worse and worse in Penrith.
Western Sydney, baby.
But I think that's probably where masculinity is at the peak.
That's why they locked us down. The 12 lockdown LJs were out west, because they knew that it was going to take a lot more than some lockdowns to shut us up. But this is the reality of what we live in. Most people in our world today don't want to talk about reality. I think as business owners as well, and as a consultant, as a strategist, if I can meet these business owners in the pain of what they're going through, whether it's, a successful company or a startup, we're dealing with people. And if you and I can communicate on that level, we can actually solve some very real problems. I had an event last night, and a lady came up to me and she said, Mario, I love everything that you speak. I've realized one thing. I need to sort out my mental health before I sort out my business. I said to her, how's your business going? She goes, we're generating over $1 million a year. And I said, don't join my program. Go and get that self-help that you need, become fully whole again, and then jam. Whereas most people would tell them, oh yeah, come to my program, it's going to transform your life. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. And if we can see the humanity in business, I believe more lives are going to be saved. It's not just buy my program's going to change your world. No, that's not it.
I love that. And that's a big thing that we focus on as well. Like, we obviously target the wider audience, and it's what the products and offers that we have for people don't necessarily cater for everybody. We could probably take the money of people. Like, we've literally refused people who were willing to give us the money, and we're like, I honestly don't want to, because I know this isn't what you need right now, and I would rather you get what you need and be able to be able to maximize the time when, let's say, 3 months' time, I'm not going anywhere. Come back to us in 3 months where you get this help that you do need, and you're going to be able to get so much more value from this, and I want to make sure that I can deliver something that you truly want and you truly desire.
That is so good.
And
That's what I love about you guys.
Yeah.
I see it throughout your marketing, and beyond that, it's becoming your branding, and that's so good.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about your business. How does that work? How do you help people? How do you maximize the growth that they can have in their business?
Yeah, awesome. So I'm an entrepreneur turned business strategist. I'm not a coach who coaches coaches, and I've been in the trenches building businesses and brands for almost 20 years now. Later on in my career, I started running seminars and marketing events and speaking at conferences. But I've been in the trenches, and throughout my consulting career, I've spoken over 50,000 people. I've spoken to 50,000 people at these events, and across the board, there's a common trend and a common theme, which is business owners have outsourced their futures to agencies. And every single week I have conversations time and time again. I paid an agency this much and it didn't work. I paid an agency $47,000 and this didn't work. Recently I spoke to a cosmetic company, spent $350,000 on a cosmetic brand, and we sat across a table. I was invited by her distributor to audit the commercial readiness of this company. And she said to me, Mario, what do you think? And it's a common response that I find myself saying a lot these days. I said, ma'am, are you sure? And she said, yes, I want you to tell me exactly what you think. I go, exactly what I think? I go, she goes, exactly. There's my website, there's my product. What do you think? I said, ma'am, it's shit. To be able to tell business owners that they need to remove the friction points in their design, their messaging, and their user experience is what they need to be told. No more blowing smoke up, in their pockets and telling them that everything's going to be okay. It's like, you're 35 grand in a hole. This is not going to be okay. You have to turn this around. You have to change. The messaging has to change. So as a strategist today, I'm finding great pleasure in finding friction points in businesses. Business has been running for decades. I see with a business owner and says, I've been doing this for 32 years. I said, sir, the contacts page on your website doesn't work. I don't care how long you've been doing this. And businesses thrive when they have that external perspective.
So for those who, let's say they are working with an agency and you feel like they may or may not be conned, what's some things that they can actually look out for to know that they're actually being done right by, or if they are being rorted?
Taken for a ride. We need to learn, business owners need to learn how to audit their agencies. There are so many agencies that will promise you the world, but they actually deliver nothing. The only thing that they're doing is stealing wealth out of your vault and the bread out of your child's mouth, and you're lining their pockets. And when someone's going to give you their finest sales pitch, if you're about to give an agency $4,000 to $6,000 a month, you bet they're going to give you the finest sales pitch that you've ever heard in your life. So business owners need to understand why and how an agency is doing what it's doing. I speak to business owners every single week. I say, what's your agency doing? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I have no idea. Okay. Who has the login passwords for your website? Some guy in India. Cool. What happens if he stops paying his hosting subscription? Oh, my business shuts down. Are you out of your mind? So it's about not only the knowledge, but bringing back the assets and the power back to those business owners so they realize that it's their responsibility to be fully in control of every single part of their business. If you're going to outsource a task to an agency, you have to know what result you're looking for, especially if you're taking your baby's bread and giving it to somebody else.
So what are those things? How do I track that the agency's doing the right by my business? What should I be looking out for?
We look predominantly to ROI. I'm most passionate about profitability. And if we're not seeing between a 3 to 10 times return, most people have got reverse ROAS, which is regret on ad spend. So we have to change that. That regret on ad spend is a story I hear so often. And if your efforts are not paying for themselves, that your marketing efforts are not paying for themselves, then something is terribly wrong. You know, your first few months, yes, I understand if it's a new business, then there's an outlay. But very quickly, if you're finding that you're going on to month 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, and it's not converting for you, something is terribly wrong. They're promising results, not just a subscription. I'll give you a real life example. I spoke to a friend of mine who I reconnected with after several years, and we were talking about SEO and his website. He said to me, Mario, SEO doesn't work. I was like, what do you mean SEO doesn't work? He said, SEO doesn't work. I said to him, the Google search engine is called the search engine for a reason, because search engine optimization clearly works. He says, man, I've been doing this for a long time and, we've got nothing for it. I said, if you don't mind me asking, his name's Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, how much are you paying? He said, we're paying about $1,200 a week. I said, okay, what for? He said, search engine optimization. I said, dude, you run a such and such company. How many pages do you have on your website? He said, 5. So you're paying $4,800 a month plus GST for a 5-page website of search engine optimization. He said, yes. I said, and you're saying it doesn't work? He goes, bro, SEO is a scam. It doesn't work. All these agencies are scammers. I said, dude, let me just do an audit on your website. Put it into a system. Fatal error, no index tag detected. A no index tag tells the search engine not to rank or index this website. Yeah. I called him up immediately, said, Jimmy, how long have you been paying for this? He said, 17 months at over $5,000 a month. Business owners don't know what they don't know. And it's partly their fault, but it's partly not. Shame on the agency that actually treats businesses these ways. But also the business owner should know that if I'm 6 months, 10 months, 17 months into this, if there's no return, dude, cut the contract. So business owners need to be reminded that no one is in control of your success. You are. You have to know why and how and if these things are working. So if your messaging on your website isn't sound and it's not clear, driving a ton of ads isn't going to serve you. So you speak to the Facebook guy, he says run Facebook ads. You speak to the Google ads guy, he says run Google ads. You speak to the website guy, he says, you need a new website. But business is holistic. It's all of those things together. And we have to find and identify those friction points, iron them out. If your messaging is not clear, you can run all the ads you want. You will not solve your profitability problem by spending more on ads.
We had a really interesting story in regard to this in what we tried to do. So we reached out to a marketing firm basically to help us do our values, our mission, vision, everything. And we're like, oh, we don't know what we're doing, so we'll just get somebody else to do it. Because as you said, they don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. And so we paid X amount of dollars to this company. What they delivered was fantastic, but it wasn't quite what we were after. Because we had the realization that we can't truly program everything in our mind, because we are the subject matter experts in our business. We can't plug that into other people in an hour conversation for them to build exactly what you want. And that was the harsh realization, and the lesson that we had to take from that was you can't outsource your mission, your values, and your core, because that shapes everything for your marketing messaging. It should be around who you are as a person, and then you separate yourself from that business to obviously for acquisition or whether you want to sell or whatever.
Bro, you've absolutely nailed it. An agency providing you a 45-minute strategy session before you give them $5,000 a month for the next 10 years is not sufficient. There has to be a level of reciprocity, is that how you say it? Bit of back and forth with your agency.
Return, give and take relationship,
Yeah, so that one 45-minute session is not going to be enough for you to download your entire lived experience to some random bloke who you've never met before and assume that he's going to fully understand who you are and what you do. So you've absolutely nailed it. And shame on the agencies that do that.
And as tough as that decision was to make, because you've got to have the harsh conversation, not just with yourself, but with you're having a conversation with your business saying, hey, is this actually working out? Do you believe the reason why people are so afraid to audit their services and the things that they're consulting to get done for them business? Because they're afraid? They're afraid of those tough conversations with themselves?
Yes. And they don't hold the agencies to a higher standard. So some people are afraid to confront the agency. The other component is they say, well, I'm not really sure. And they don't hold them to a high standard. If your employee treated your business the way these agencies do, you would fire them. So why do we allow agencies to do the same? And I think the new challenge that we face is AI. AI, people are relying on AI to do their soul thinking. How does a machine bring out the soul in your business? You know, or they use AI to write these sales scripts. How do you use a machine to sell to a human? Now, AI is a tool. And I think over the next 5 years, AI is going to destroy more businesses than ever in the history of the world. More businesses will be destroyed by this hallucinating machine that we call ChatGPT. ChatGPT doesn't create new content. It crawls the internet, finds a statistical average of what it thinks it should say, and regurgitates that back to you. At this point, it's talking to itself. I mean, and anyone who wants to argue this, and I brought up this point last night at the masterclass that I was hosting, and I had some people who kind of look and, you know, they believed the lie that AI is going to revolutionize and save and transform, thinking that, you know, AI is Jesus Christ and it's going to save your soul. I said, by a show of hands, because I see some disgruntled faces here, I've made a couple of people uncomfortable. I said, has anyone here ever corrected ChatGPT and said, you're wrong, I'm right? Every single hand in the room went up. So what I'm telling you is true. This hallucinating beast is speaking to itself, and business owners think that is what they're going to use to speak to humans. It's a tool to refine and proofread at best.
That's interesting, because I'm not sure if I should say this, but I use GPT throughout my university, so I've always struggled with writing. I've never been good at writing sentences, but when GPT came out, like, it always used to take me 3 times as long to write paragraphs. For some reason, I can talk about all my ideas and all my words, but I can't make it on paper. And when GPT came out to help me get through my degree, I always had all my ideas, and I say, hey, put this into a paragraph. But I'm feeding it my ideas and my content.
Yeah.
I think what I've realized, and the way that other people are using GPT and other AI tools, is say, hey, build me this. But they're not giving it any of their unique ideas or, I guess, IP to truly show their humanization. So as you said, that's when the regurgitation truly comes back. So I challenge you a little bit. It's just how people are utilizing it. Correct. I do agree that it is going to ruin a lot of businesses, and there's going to be a lot of cookie cutter businesses purely because it's like, hey, I already know this. Let me recite this for you. But if people are taught how to truly utilize and adapt their skill set and how to use these tools properly, which again, it's not going to happen to everybody, that's where it can truly be maximized.
I love that. I completely agree, 100%. As long as we do not give our soul, the soul of our business, the voice of our business to this machine, it is there to proofread what you've already written, and I believe that that's where it's most powerful. I remember growing up, I used to memorize all of my friends' addresses and phone numbers. Do you remember anyone's phone number these days?
I know his.
I don't know his.
We're experiencing what we call digital dementia. People are forgetting how to think.
Yeah.
So if you are going to use these technologies, don't lose your humanity in the process. Our attention span, the most recent study came out, said the average person's attention span back in 2017, it was two odd minutes. By 2020, it was down to 1 minute and 27 seconds. Today, we're down to a second. We are no longer in the 3-second world.
I thought we were at 2.78.
Most people, when they scroll, see the first glimpse of something, and they don't even know what's being said.
Wow.
I saw a beautiful illustration of it where it was a guy who was sitting down scrolling, and over the top was like this scroll that just kept going, and the whole floor was full of this thread of this scroll, and it was a beautiful illustration to make you think, if this was a visual representation of what I'm really doing, I'm just pushing, and this paper is getting longer and longer and longer and longer. Social media is no longer social, which presents a new challenge and opportunity for business owners. We've all been forced to become media companies. That's why we speak so much about creating content. The reason why we're doing this right now is to create content. Why? Because the social platforms have become media platforms. So we need to get good at telling stories that capture attention, to break that 1 second glitch in the matrix, to capture that attention. And that's our new challenge. How do you take a small business that's now forced to become a media company to capture the attention of an entire generation with digital dementia?
Any ideas?
No.
Are you going to have an existential crisis?
Yeah.
Say, one of my favorite books, it's called Civilized to Death.
Okay.
And it speaks about humanity over the last few centuries and how we've basically civilized ourselves out of civilization. People don't speak no more. People don't connect anymore. Everything's transactional. You ask someone how their day is and they say good, and you look at their face and it's like, no, dude. One good thing that came out of YouTube in the recent Culture and Trends report spoke about the 3 things that is converting the highest on YouTube at the moment, and that's authenticity, intimacy, and there's a third thing. I'll swing back to it, and vulnerability. Authenticity, intimacy, and vulnerability. They're finding that content produced on phones has a higher retention rate, up to 80% higher than studio content, because the world is starving for realness again. So if you do not know what you're doing, what you're providing, what you're selling, who you're serving, there is not a ChatGPT script on earth that can speak to that human that you're trying to do business with.
Yeah.
And that's a really unique take as well. So one of your good friends, Roscoe, we recently did one of his trainings, and one of the key aspects he said is whenever you're creating some kind of AI process, you never want to completely remove the human whatsoever. Always have some kind of human aspect to everything you do. So either use it to converge, take a large amount and make into a smaller point to make your decisions easier, or to take an idea to diverge, to give you a couple of options, and then you can converge from that option into what are my next tasks. Either way, the human aspect means that I have to select which one, not, hey, build me a business, because you have no input there.
Yeah. Can I ask you to grab my phone for me? Because, sorry, brother, it's just on the floor. Most podcast people don't play videos, but I'm going to play an audio for you. I think it's the most funniest, ridiculous thing I heard this morning on my daily doom scroll. This is how most people use ChatGPT. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use AI. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is don't lose your soul in the process and think it's going to build you a life-transforming business. After I play you this video, we're going to talk about the people who use AI to sell services that they don't understand. That's a different, and one of my enemies for the season is these social media marketing agencies that are pretending and masquerading to be marketers because someone told them that they can become a marketer if they buy their online course for 3 easy payments, and businesses are being ruined. But this is how most business owners use ChatGPT. It sounds exactly like this.
Hello ChatGPT, how to be rich?
Very rich.
Very rich. Overnight. Give me 10 ideas.
50 ideas.
50 ideas. Zero investment.
No risk.
No risk. No risk.
No hard work.
No hard work. Saturday, Sunday off.
World tour
included. Shark Tank friendly ideas.
Best ideas.
Best ideas. No hurry.
Take your time.
Take your time.
Deep research.
Deep research. Deep research. Go.
Where's my salad?
Deep research.
Saturday, Sunday off. Look, that's how most people use AI. And it's a delusion that business owners have been sold. And I'm going to piss off a lot of AI gurus out there. But like you said, what I love about Roscoe and what he does is that he uses the tool to serve the human and doesn't think that they're going to create a product that's going to sell to somebody. So that's what I love about Roscoe's approach. And I've known him for a very long time, and I can tell you, beyond all things, he's an incredible human being. And that's what makes his work so good using AI.
So your mindset in order to come up with this sort of your own perspective on AI and how successful that you've been in business, that's all come from I assume you as and what you've had to go through as a child and what you grew up with. What was that journey like when you were younger, let's say in your teenage years? How did you process that, and what were the key values or principles that you've taken from that childhood that is now translated into your success in business and in life?
You boys might not remember the brand Kappa. It's a very Western Sydney brand. We were so poor growing up. When I went to my very first seminar, I was wearing a Kappa jacket that was ripped down the side, and I was wearing $5 microfiber pants from Kmart and a pair of sneakers on because that made sense. And that's where I started. The first seminar I ever attended was a 4-day event, and it was given to me. It was a free ticket that they had given to me. I was so poor I couldn't afford the train to go home. I was 15 at the time, 15 or 16, I think. I couldn't afford to go home, couldn't afford to eat, and I couldn't afford a place to stay. But I knew that I wanted to learn what these people had to teach. So I was at Central Station for 4 days, and I would stay awake holding my bag so no one stole it. And I would go to this train station, I'll sit there all night reading the notes, and I'll the next day go to this seminar, and I'll do it again and again and again and again. Give me a pointed edge to your question.
What did you learn from that experience, and what was the key takeaway you got from that story that is now transferred into what you apply to your life today?
Hey, these are good questions. You have to cut all this section out. Good God, that's deep. It has taught me a lot of empathy for business owners. For me, this has been my journey. The ups and downs, the wins, the losses, the successes, the failures. It's been my entire journey. I think it's definitely developed my no-filter approach. I don't sit down with business owners and piss in their pocket. I have very real conversations. And I think those struggles showed me the value of people's time and the value of people's wealth, because I understand how hard they've worked for what they have. So it's actually really helped me just get very clear about who I am, who I serve, and then how do I just get straight to the point with a business owner. If you are not going to like me during my free preview event, if you're not going to like me during our first call, you are not going to love me for a one-on-one 3-month container. And having that approach and that no BS approach in business is what I've learned, because I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I definitely don't want to waste my own time. Time is the most valuable thing in the world. It's not money. Money you can earn and lose and gain and give away, but time is the one thing that you can never get back. I remember I went to a meeting late with one of my mentors. This was years and years ago. And I was 5 minutes late. And as soon as I walked into his office, he looked at me and said, "Don't you ever effing do that again." I was like, "Dude, what did I do?" He goes, "Those 5 minutes I could have spent with my children. And instead I'm sitting here waiting for you." And I was like, bro, that's how valuable time is. The mentors, there's no such thing as greatness is achieved alone. There's no such thing as self-made. Self-made is a lie. I think of all the people, the mentors that have helped me throughout my life, even outside of mentors, the crew members that helped me run my events, the teams that I've hired throughout the years, the people who will just give you a word to encourage you. There's no such thing as self-made. Greatness cannot be achieved alone. You know, throughout my younger journey, realizing with all my struggles, I'm not self-made. I didn't get here on my own. People lifted me up. That's probably been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned throughout business. You did not get here alone. If it wasn't for the people who gave me that first ticket to a seminar, if it wasn't for the randoms who just come into your life and they just change the trajectory of your life, how can you claim to be self-made?
Yep, that's what we've found as well, is that people who are aspiring, they think they can do it themselves and they don't need anyone else. So they try and do it on themselves and don't get anywhere. Or you've got the entrepreneurs in their 20s who 6 or 7 figure business owners, they think they've outgrown the need for others as well. So for you being a successful business owner who's gone through the trials and tribulations of that journey, what would you say to, let's just say the 6 or 7 figure business owners who they're doing well in their business, they have their structure, they have their small network, maybe 1 or 2 others who are on that level. What would you say to them who've sort of not given up but don't see the value in or return on their time to network and go out and meet new people and get the support that they can from others and not do it solo, but they can actually get the support? Yeah,
right on.
Yeah. Is there any like guidance that you have for them, or like you might think that you can do it yourself, you're at this stage of business, but there's another stage there that if you actually connect with people, you like talk about your network as well, and how has that affected your business, right?
From my perspective as a speaker, unless I meet the organizer of the event, I'm not speaking on their stage. It's so simple. People need people to build businesses. You and I, all of us, are going to an event tomorrow. Why would we invest time to go to that event? It's to meet people, to get smarter, get sharper, and build. Right now we're having a conversation. People, we invested this time. Why? To get smarter, to get sharper, and build. I would tell any business owner at any level, you and I know some common business owners, very, very successful business owners in their multiple 8 figures, and you'll see them at these networking events and we're all rubbing shoulders. Why are they there? I'm sure that we can learn something from them. If it wasn't valuable, they wouldn't give up their time. So I would tell someone who is building a 6 or 7 figure business, surround yourself with people. Business is a lonely game, and it gets lonelier at the top because there's less people. The bottom is busy, where the 90% is. You'll find a lot of people to bum you out and tell you that what you're doing is wrong, not good enough, and you should change your strategy, but they've never built a single business in their life. I had a family member recently that I was speaking to, and I was talking about these events that I've got coming up, and he said, doesn't that venue sound a bit expensive? And immediately, I didn't say this out loud, but I thought, dude, shut the hell up. You can barely keep a job, let alone tell me that this venue is expensive. Yeah, the venue is expensive because it looks good, but I'm here to build a brand, to build a business. So to level up and to network and rub shoulders with people who say, dude, that venue wasn't good enough. Do better next time. Okay. Hell yeah, let's do better next time. So anyone who doesn't think there's anyone who wants to get to a new stage and to a new level in their business needs to be surrounded by mentors and other people who are playing the same game. The good book says that iron sharpens iron, and we need to definitely be in a season of refinement constantly refine and review over and over and over again.
No, I love it. How have you mentioned it, but how have you utilized your network to fast track your growth? So obviously it allows you to speak on stages, but has there been any other ways through connections? What like maybe give me a story on the biggest connection that you've got from a referral or from someone that you've known, and how that has affected your business?
Yeah. So recently I've been quite polarizing on my social media, and I've loved every single bit of it, and I think there's an opportunity here to say things that most people are afraid to say, because we live in a world full of cowards. And business owners need to be polarizing. We need to make enemies and gain fans. Unfortunately, I read a book called Make Enemies and Gain Fans. I probably didn't need to read it. But and I'm not saying make enemies by going out there and spewing racial slurs on your social media. That's not what I'm saying. But find out what your industry hates and make that the enemy. I would say that the biggest thing that's helped me grow over the last 9 months is just being able to speak my mind and tell what I believe is true, right, and real. I put up a video about Charlie Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk, the other week, and from that I got 2 podcast interviews and a speaking gig. But it had nothing to do with business. But I was able to speak about what I believed in and to share that publicly. Someone watched that video, scrolled down, saw my business content, said, hey, dude, I'd love to do business with you. We actually just got off the phone to speak at 2 events.
Nice. Yeah.
Right? So how you grow your network is just by being real. Yeah.
I love it. So just to summarize, we've got the agency. Like what everyone's going to do at home is if they're working with an agency, they're going to go home, review what that agency is doing, see the hard ROIs that the agency has given you. If it doesn't have anything, like you need to really have a hard conversation with yourself and potentially with the business to make sure that what they are delivering is what they say they would deliver. You're going to go and ponder the AI and how that's going to revolutionize everything and make sure that you're using it in the correct way because it's an extremely powerful tool as long as you have that human element to it, right? And then I think the biggest takeaway that at least I got from that conversation just then is it all comes back to your network is your net worth, and the bigger network that you can have and the more potent people that you can have inside of it, that's going to allow you to level up further in your business, and that there is levels to it. And when you're networking at the beginning, you're going to network with people who are at that aspiring stage. When you start leveling up, that's when you need to surround yourself with people who are making the 6 or 7 figure income as well, because that's going to allow you to get to the 8 and 9, which is where a whole nother room opens up.
That's right. And try to find rooms where you're the stupidest person in the room. Mm-hmm. You know, I consult companies that are gravely larger than mine, and I know that I can serve them in one level in their branding or their business strategy. But I sit down and I listen to the rest of the meeting. I listen to every single word that's coming out of the CEO's mouth, because if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Even with your clients. We have this thing where you want to be the sharpest and the smartest, and there's a national juice company, which I'll leave unnamed, here in Australia. They're branching out into the Arab Gulf. Hey, I can help them with their messaging in that region of the world, but that is a big business, and when anybody else speaks in that room, boy, you better be paying attention. And I absolutely love that. So I find clients who are bigger than me that I can serve in areas that only I can solve, but I'm there as a student as well. And I know most consultants and strategists are probably too proud to say that, but hey, if I can leave with a tip or a tool or a strategy to help them grow to the level, to these mammoth companies, boy, I'm there as a student too. Mm-hmm. You sometimes sit down in these conversations and they're like, oh, you know, we just moved $6 million worth of products. I'm like, cool, bro. Just a casual 6. And I'm listening, going, hey, how can I make that 7 for you? But at the same time, how did you get to the 6?
All right, well, Mario, this has been an incredible conversation. Who in your network would you like to see next on the podcast?
Who in my network I'd like to see on your podcast? Yeah. You guys have got to interview Roscoe Patterson. Have you guys interviewed Roscoe?
We haven't interviewed him yet, no.
Like, we got to get him before he moves.
Yeah. He's about to leave.
We went to his house as well recently, so I was like...
Set that up.
That is a man worth listening to. Mm-hmm. I love how he thinks about AI, but I love the spirit behind it.
Perfect. Well, for those listening at home, where can they find you?
Predominantly Instagram.
Yep.
Instagram is my platform of choice, so at Mario Malik. And send me a DM, say hi, say that you heard me on the Forge podcast, the Young Future Leaders podcast, and let me know that you're ready to level up, and if I can point them in the right direction, give them any advice that they need. I would just love to serve your audience, guys.
This has been epic. Mario Malik, everybody.
Appreciate it. That's awesome.